Thank you, Chairman. Mr. Killbride, as I mentioned in my opening remarks, I'm interested in hearing from you that in the discharge of your duties, your regulatory decisions will be based on what is best for the consumers that you serve and not other considerations.
Absolutely. I don't know how to offer proof to that other than to give you my word and tell you that's the way I operate.
Absolutely is good enough for me. We all live in an environment in which the fossil fuel industry has put enormous amount of effort into trying to manipulate politics, manipulate regulatory proceedings, manipulate Congress into trying to protect something that they very much want to protect, which is their ability to pollute massive amounts of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere for free. Super deal if you can get it, and if everybody else has to pick up the cost. I am hoping that as a TVA member, you will not be a party to that kind of an effort and will call balls and strikes as you see them right down the middle.
Absolutely.
One of the areas in which we have shown, I think, considerable bipartisan success has been on the question of carbon capture. Mm-hmm. We passed a carbon capture, utilization, and sequestration bill, believe it or not, in the Senate by unanimous consent. Everybody. It was a great piece of legislation, but what was significant about it was that it added tax credits for captured carbon. And the reason that that was important is because as long as it's free to pollute, it's really hard to generate a market signal, a revenue proposition for carbon capture, for remedies to the carbon dioxide pollution problem that we have. So I'm interested in your thoughts on where carbon capture might fit into your role, your portfolio of concerns at TVA, and specifically because you run nuclear facilities, one of the things that we have seen is perfectly safely operating nuclear facilities having to close down because natural gas is cheaper. So you build a new natural gas polluting power plant, and the only reason you're doing that is economics. And the only reason the economics make sense is because the nuclear plant isn't getting the value of the carbon-free nature of its power. So you put the two side by side and it's an unfair competition because you've got clean nuclear power here, you've got polluting natural gas here, and they pay no difference for it, so the nuclear plant ends up not being able to compete. Several states have actually stepped in and said, okay, we're going to support our nuclear fleet with a payment to reflect the carbon-free nature of the power, the benefit of it, if you will. Very like what we did with the carbon capture bill to give a benefit to that. And I'm just wondering, as you think about that suite of issues, the carbon-free nature of nuclear emissions, the difficulty of trying to have carbon capture succeed as a technology, even though it's an important one, and the general proposition that if you pollute, you should pay for it. How does that all work together, in your view, in the future of TVA?
I understand the question completely.
That's impressive, because that was a long and contorted question, so I appreciate that.
And to give you an answer, a couple of things go through my mind. Number one, I would want the financial experts at TVA at an appropriate time, should I get there, to translate that into a spreadsheet that I can look at and understand. What I think is going to impact TVA from the top of the house is that when you have the diverse composition of the power generating plants, you would have a formula for nuclear carbon capture. You might have a formula for solar, and so on. And so they don't have to be normalized. I'm not sure from an investment perspective, without even getting into the tax implication, whether they should be normalized. but they will be different. And so how unless you went into TVA and say, okay, we're going to rank your 5 or 6 different power sources, and here are your scores for each one. So let's all agree we're going to keep these 3 and get rid of these other 2. Or come back to me and tell me why there should be tax legislation that will subsidize my keeping 2 that don't perform on paper the way the other 2 do. So I'm not getting you where you want, but I look forward to studying that and having the experts explain all the ramifications of that in this particular footprint when and if I have the chance as soon as to do that.
Fair enough. Thank you.